Oh, but that's a fact.
Thank you very much for keeping your dials on Joy 99.7 FM. You're listening to us across the country on our affiliate stations, and you're watching us on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis program. And I've got some text messages here. I'll start with one from Gabi Asari-Ochiridako of the Dankwa Institute. He says, STS did not fail because of boardroom wrangling. The boardroom battle started when the Koreans could not raise the money and their Ghanaian partners took it upon themselves to go loan shopping with a sovereign guarantee, arguing that if the Koreans could not bring funding, then they were not needed. Government should stop hiding behind the boardroom wrangling, which was an effect of the bad deal and not the cause of the failed deal. That is Gabi Asari Ochre Dakon. This one is coming from Alfred Ogbami, and he says, the first, the Merchant Bank Finance first round deal hasn't been consummated despite approval by shareholders because the deal hasn't received presidential approval. But this is the sad logic in giving the debt profile to first round, assuming without admitting that the report is true. First round, after paying $96 million, will be paying Zulich for Merchant Bank if they were assigned rights to collect the debts of over 300 million Ghana cedis, because the debt is more than the offer on the table. That is from Alfred Ogbame. I've got some others too. This one, you didn't identify yourself. You say, I am very appalled by the actions of the NPP communication team. Instead of them to hammer what Nana is talking about, free education, health, creating jobs, etc., they are talking about corruption under the John Mahama administration. Richard, Greda Estates, interesting where it's coming from. Right, about this engineers and planners loan issue, I believe the questions we should be asking ourselves is, one, is it not true that the loan was given without board approval? Unfortunately, it appears nothing has been approved. Is it not okay, that's the first. Okay, that's the earlier loan. Is it not true that the manager who granted the loan was sacked because of that? I think there's some evidence to that. Is it not that he's not with the bank, but whether it is because of that, we do not know. Is it not true that since 2009, beginning of Mills Mahama administration, engineers and planners have not serviced that loan? Is it not true that the sacked manager works with President Mahama as an advisor? Okay, that's also an issue that was raised by the NPP in their communication. And I was also seeking to find out if being removed from a bank to the president's office is a promotion or a demotion of an enemy. Kafui in Kentampo writes, it is clear the NPP has lost focus and Nanado has become so desperate in his attempt to become the president. Ghanaians are more than prepared to vote for John Mahama. He represents unity and more committed to serve Ghanaians in humility and truth. Bediako at Fao de Nkumasi writes, has the NDC backstepped or is prepared to do what? Lick back their spitting? Okay, sorry, we'll take the IEA one later on. This one has no name. It says the opposition MPP is virtually hitting every corner to find negative scenarios to use as political weapon to fight the ruling NDC. However, they have short of issues to compete with President Mahama. Another one from Akuse. Alukus in Tamale. He says, is the caretaker president breaking the myth of predecessors? Okay, I think that we need to put the text messages in a certain order so that we'll take them in that way. Perhaps I'll take this very final one. Like ethics and religion, I believe principles should be inflexible and unbending, sacrosanct and unchanging with the calendar. Why would the NDC... Okay, all of that is in respect of the IEA. So I'll just want to post this to my production. Kindly, let's structure the messages in line with the topics that are being discussed. Now we'll go to the next issue, and I was asking the question also, we are looking for the evidence that the NPP wasted a total of $750 million in loans. The NDC's Forum for Setting the Record Straight held a press conference and is daring the NPP to point to a single infrastructure project it did with the huge cash to show that it has the credibility to transform Ghana as it is promising, or it should go to sleep and forget about the elections. I'll start with you at this point, James.
Well, thank you very much, Samson. I think that, I mean, on this press conference, it's about a third or so that the Forum for Setting the Record Straight is holding for this year, and I like to seize the opportunity to use this platform to commend Fifi Kwete, the Deputy Minister for Finance, for his untiring efforts, really at correcting the facts and setting the record straight. I think, and like many people believe, that Fifi has been very, very phenomenal, predating when he became a Deputy Minister, and this current series that he started and putting the MPP particularly on their toes. It was a very simple press conference which was held, and ultimately you get to register the point that the NDC has a superior track record, I mean, as compared to the NPP in the area of infrastructural development. Why did this press conference come about? It came about simply because we heard in the recent past the MPP telling us about how they will transform the economy. They're even telling us about how, I mean, in the most unlikely event that they got elected, they would transform the economy into a Brazilian type economy. But there's a discordant sound, which is also being sounded by the party's chairman. That's Mr. Jake Obechabi Lamte, who in a recent radio interview said that it was impossible to transform an economy in 8 years. So the question is, what is happening again? I mean, there's something that is consistent about the NPP. They seem to be consistently inconsistent. The party, the candidates, they say we will transform the economy in 4 years. The chairman of the party says no. I mean, and he was defending the MPP's track record between 2001 and 2008, where he was asked a question on an Accra radio station. Then he says that no, it's impossible to transform the economy in 8 years. That's why I say that there's a discordant sound coming from within their fold. So based on which, I mean, proceeding from there, Fifi shows, the Forum for Setting the Record Straight shows, I mean, item by item, sector by sector, how and why, I mean, we have a much superior track record over the NPP. For example, and this is just an example. I mean, you have a government that between 2001 and 2006 or 7, when it was in power, it had not added not even 1 megawatt of power to the energy generation at the time of the NPP. You
say that at the close of the 8 years, it had added only 11%, but
exactly.
At the end of 4 years, you have done 18%.
No, within 3 years.
Within 3 years.
Our record, for example, is far more superior, I mean, than what they achieved in the whole of the 8 years that they were in power.
We still don't have reliable energy supply, though.
Well, but at least our generation capacity has increased. What it tells you is that, I mean, the difficulty, and I'll be the first to admit that the difficulty notwithstanding, I mean, if we had not added this additional 378 megawatts of power, you can imagine what our situation would have been. The point, I mean, why is the issue of energy being raised? If you say that you are committed to transforming an economy, energy capacity and generation, for example, is one of the requirements that can help, I mean, that can help multiply the effect of transforming any such economy. What is this economy that NPP says they will transform, and yet when they had 8 solid years in power, their record does not vindicate that that position.
Well, one of the key issues that was raised by the press conference was also that the government has put in place far-reaching policies that have arrested the rapid depreciation and brought about a situation where the result of these successful measures, the global confidence in the Ghanaian economy has once again skyrocketed, as evidenced in the recent massive oversubscription of the 5-year bond floated by the government.
Well, the point is a simple one. I mean, all of this points to the fact that we have a far more superior track record than the New Patriotic Party.
The far-reaching measures, you know, which are they?
You know, the point is that they keep asking. What, I mean, is it that what they often will say is that we've benefited enormously from loans and other such facilities. Where is the money? What has this administration used it for? I mean, this is an administration that within 3 years, 3.5 years, we have increased household connection to the national electricity grid by 18%, as against the MPP's 8 years in office, and they connected only 11%. I mean, that's why, again, we say that we have a far more superior track record. I mean, we're talking about an administration that within 3 years, we've added 376 megawatts of power.
You may have a superior record, but is it true that the NPP contracted such huge loans and never put it to any use? $750 million.
I'm happy that my brother.
Single project to show for.
Again, we need to clearly distill the message that the Forum for Setting the Record Straight, I mean, shared with our brothers and sisters from the media. We are not saying, for example, that we are not saying that somebody had sat on the money or done as they pleased with it. Our point is simple. What really is there to show for that, for example? It was, we've heard from their own quarters. They say that they were engaged in the business of procurement politics. I mean, either procuring electricity meters or paying salaries with it. That's what we are saying is that we need to see some tangibles. We need to see some physical evidence of what the money, for example,
you didn't say so. I'll read a portion of that to you. You say,
great.
Ladies and gentlemen, ask them, that's the NPP, to point out just one infrastructure project they use nearly the $1 billion to construct.
Yeah, exactly, and that's
just
why I'm saying
one.
I don't see it. Our people don't see it. We don't see. We don't know where these projects are. We are pointing, for example. I mean, where is the rail sector? They said they promised they were going to revamp. Where are the ports? I mean, go and take their own manifesto where they said that they were going to construct railway lines to northern Ghana. That's in the 2000 manifesto. 2004, they said they were even going to extend it to, is it Mali, Niger, and all those places. I mean, the evidence simply is not there. At that, I mean, this was a government that, in power, they were procuring, for example, locomotives, when at the same time, they were selling the rail tracks. I mean, so that is the kind of difficulty that we have with the NPP and how it conducted itself in power. We have shown what we are doing. For example, the gas infrastructure, which is on course. At the end of it all, it will transform Ghana. It will usher in the integrated aluminium project that will make our use of bauxite, salt, and gas deposits meaningful to our oil find, for example. The Accra Plains Irrigation Development Project is ongoing. For example, I mean, again, the NPP in government acquired 4 combined harvesters, rice harvesters, in its 8-year period in office. In 3 years, we have acquired, the NDC, 140 new rice combined rice harvesters. No wonder.
That's where you stop for me. Now I'm looking for a single infrastructure project that you put the $750 million to.
Oh, you see the Esiedon Ketia's block baking factory. They supply blocks to the Power Authority. Part of the money that is used to pay Esiedon Ketia is coming from the money we contracted. I'll respond to that in a more substantive way, but quickly let me address some of the issues you raised. First, I keep hearing this over and over again, that you did not even add 1 megawatt of power of source to our capacity.
They say you did 11%.
Yes, now they've improved it. They say, oh, it's no more, you did not add anything. It's now you did just 11. Let me just mention some of the energy provision initiatives we started. The VRA plant, Tema, 110 megawatts by the NPP. The mines plant, Tema, again, started under the NPP, 80 megawatts. Athol plant, again, started under the NPP.
The toy ones.
Now, the emergency plants, 120 megawatts, again, by the NPP. And then Asogli, it's a private initiative, a private arrangement with government, that is 200. Now, you add all that, you have about 560. And yet, people go around and they say all kinds of things as though they do not have this basic information. In fact, for those in construction, 400 megawatts was started under the MPP administration. The Abuade T3, I think it was commissioned the day before yesterday, was started by the NPP. We put the money in there. Osono, 120. I think you have abandoned that project. Was started by this administration. Boom, 220. So when you want to question the administration, I think you must have better basis for doing so. You see, all the things you mentioned, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. There's a summary of it. The economic activities you have generated in your countries. Because we go on, we did this, we did that, in the end, you don't draw any conclusions. The Ghana Statistical Service looks at all these economic activities, and they put some figures to it. Now, in recent times, we have been told that this economy has grown by 14.4%. It's unprecedented. Now, it may interest you to know that at 14.4%, 7.5 of it is coming from the non-oil traditional economy. And then you have about 7 coming from oil. I have heard people say that, oh, the contribution of the oil to that 14 is insignificant. It is not true. It is in their own budget statement. So the 14.4% was the result of the oil the last administration discovered, but for it would have been making 7.5, which is less than the 8.4% economic growth that we did in 2008. But you know the bad news? Just last Friday, in fact Thursday, the Ghana Statistical Service has come out with provisional figures for how our economy is expanding in 2012, and with it, how jobs are being created and all that. And can you believe that with oil, without oil in 2008, we were doing 8.4. With oil, we are now doing 7.1. I tried to find out from the Statistical Service what without oil would have been. And the contribution from the non-oil sector to this is less than 4%. 4%. When you have this, I think the decent thing to do is to first to have humility for the technical people. And I speak with all respect to my good friend. Yeah, he's a deputy information minister. I respect that position. But when things like this come up, we expect the policymakers to come and explain why these sharp deteriorations are happening. We cannot always turn everything into propaganda and you did this, we did this. I think people must explain what is accounting for instance, you look at agriculture, we are now doing 2.6. In 2008, we did 7.4. If we're getting money from oil, is it not possible to put some of this money, for instance, into agricultural projects? Why is the volume of agricultural activities going down like this? Somebody has to explain. And let's take this off from the usual propaganda table and have some explanation so that together we can contribute to the remedial measures. But what is happening is serious. 7.1 with oil. At the point we managed to achieve 8.4 without oil, it's unpardonable, and we need some explanation. But of course, when I say explanation, it is just so we can have a discussion. The reality is that the economic mismanagement is just bad. Otherwise, you should never have this. But we still wish at least the state managers would come. As I say, it's not fair to ask James here to do that. I don't think he'll be able to do it. But the policymakers at the Ministry of Finance who sit in the policy rooms must explain why we're having this deterioration. Now, let me come to the 750.
I thought your time was up.
No, quickly. The 750 million cedis we are now told went into nothing. I think the position is shifting gradually. But what we have been hearing is that you collected 750 from the capital market and there's nothing to show for it. We've heard this over and over again. It is what? You look at that, I'll quote the government's own statements in other documentations, and you will see the self-contradictions, which is the very trademark of an administration that has a tendency to provide misinformation and lies propaganda, even when telling the truth would be to the advantage.
You have 3 minutes, so
yes,
I'll advise, my unsolicited advice would be that you proceed to point out the infrastructure projects they are asking for.
I will not point out, I'm telling you what government has pointed out. What the NDC administration has pointed out as what we use the money for. In 2009, in the middle of 2009, the NDC administration and the World Bank went into a loan agreement. As part of the loan document, they provide information on what has been happening to sex facilities in the past. And listen, paragraph 32 of the Economic Governance and Poverty Reduction Credit. There's a agreement. Paragraph 32. Non-concessional borrowing in 2007 was mostly used to raise energy capacity, and that of 2008 is being assessed. There was non-concessional borrowing in 2007. There was some in 2008. This report is on the 2007 one. They say the 2008 one is being assessed. Now, out of the $750 million borrowed in 2007 in the form of Eurobonds, $595 million had been disbursed by January 2009. The proceeds were allocated primarily to support public investments in the energy sector, according to the following distribution. This is NDC language, yo.
I'm interested. Read.
$286 million for investment by the Volta River Authority, VRA. $134 million for investment by the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG. $54 million for the investment in the Bui Dam, the one Esiedun Ketia has been supplying blocks to. $31 million for the government's equity investment in the West Africa gas pipeline. And $90 million for public investments in road infrastructure. This is the NDC language. Now, you go on, it says, the information provided by the government of Ghana confirms, therefore, that the proceeds from the Eurobonds were used for productive investments, primarily in electricity generation and distribution. This is the language of the NDC. And then when you get into problems with Woyome and judgment debt scandals and Ghanaians after you, you turn around and say, oh, but you took 700, we don't know what you used it for. This is what we use the money for. The last time I made this point, what I heard was that, oh, we were going for a loan, so we needed to say nice things. Before they went for that loan, quickly, before they went to that loan, I was going through the 2009 budget statement by the NDC in March. This time they are not going for a loan, in which case they probably will have the tendency to do what they used to do in line. Quickly, yeah. Paragraph 435 of the 2009 budget statement. Government of Ghana had been making significant budgetary allocations to cover the capital investments in programs of VRA and ECG. An immense proportion, 76% of the sovereign bond proceeds, that's the 750, were earmarked under the Government of Ghana 2008 supplementary budget to cover capital expenditures for VRA, Gridco, ECG, and Bui Power Authority. These are the statements from government. So the question I ask is, you cannot put these in official document on the basis of it, formulate policies, and then you organize something you call the record suite, led by the Deputy Minister for Finance, and he says, show me one project. Go and tell him that Mr. Esiedun Ketia, the one he has been...
It's all right, thank you. End on that note. Now, Ni, from the document that he's referred to, and the NPP is not the author of this document, how do you situate this in the press release that we have had from the Setting the Record Straight?
Something, I think we have a situation in this country where the government can say one thing, the opposition can say something else, and the challenges continue to and fro until nobody knows what the truth is. That's why we are having this discussion today. We need to move our country to a point where, you know, one set of documents or one set of figures we can all believe in, the country believes in it, but, you know, frankly, Nobody knows in this country exactly what the situation is with the 750 million euro bond.
We should know because
Well,
we have
no,
just,
what I'm saying is, yeah, no, he read it. He's read it. But as you're saying,
also read
yes,
this document.
But yes, the point you're asking is
detailing what the monies were used for.
But it's the same government a minister who's sitting on a platform and telling us something.
That's why I'm asking you.
So what I'm saying
to
is
reconcile.
I can't reconcile it.
By Fifi Kwete
I can't reconcile it.
And the documents
20
that
years
of
their rule, they've got us to the mess that we're in, where nobody can believe any figures that's thrown out. Nobody can even believe what we read in any document. The Statistical Service has been challenged. Where are we?
By people including
but if we could trust foreign media so much, because he referred earlier to Reuters report, the Financial Times UK, when they came to look at this issue of the 750, well, they reported on it, they did an investigation, and they reported this year, earlier in the year, that they didn't believe that much of the 750 million had gone into productive investment. That was Financial Times UK. Right? So, well, it's true. We can. I don't have a copy here, but what I'm saying is, if you were relying on Reuters earlier,
if I follow you, that is a conclusion they have reached.
And they also concluded
an opinion they are
but there was a lot of nepotism. There was a lot of nepotism involved in some of the expenditure. This is what the Financial Times UK. My main point is that nobody in this country listening knows whether the government or the opposition is right on these figures, because they are changing their mind on it. They are conflicting responses on everything. And they polarize everything to the extent that nobody understands what is right and what is wrong. It's one reason why we believe that we need to move away in this country to a situation where we can at least know what is truth and what isn't. And this morning we've been talking about many issues, and some of it is just down to propaganda. These two parties need to steer the country in a direction that tells the truth, seeks the truth, and everybody understands it. Then we're making progress. But for me, all the issues about that we talked about earlier, about macroeconomic indicators and what we feel our progress that James talked about, the fundamentals in this country are that 90% of our wealth is in the hands of 10%. There's an increasing gap between rich and poor. We need to begin to tackle those sort of issues, because they're toing and froing, single-digit inflation, this and that. We had it under MPP. We now have it under NDC, and they keep playing games with it. For us, where is the country heading? External and political, cultural influences are obstructing our progress. And there's an emerging world order that reduces Africa's influence. What have they been able to do about the decline of our influence in the world? What have they been able to do about the fact that this gap between rich and poor? What have they been able to do to ensure that in a generation?
Well, you are not interested in the statistics that James put out.
Well, I'm saying that
about how much they have done with the little loans that they have gotten.
Frankly, I believe that any government that comes into this country and collects taxes will do something. They will do something. For us, we're interested in the bigger picture of, in 20 years, 30 years, where has the country got to? Because we've been playing with the figures. The MPP came, played politics with the figures. The NDC has come and they've been comparing their notes about who has done better than any other. But let's look at it sector by sector. We are saying that Ghana is not working for Ghanaians. That's why I'm trying to give you the bigger picture. There's a growing gap between rich and poor. Whatever figures he tables today, whatever figures, if the MPP should come to power and come and table, where is the overall, where are we heading? In 20 years, where are we headed? When you look at our educational sector, it's declining. It has declined. When you look at our roads, are we making huge, despite the comparisons about who has built more roads, who has tarred more? Is every Ghanaian out there satisfied that our road network is better for us today? Is the energy sector, despite the talk about... There's been
substantial improvement over the period.
There hasn't been substantial improvement. When you talk about...
You haven't seen all the new roads that have been built over the period.
You hit the nail on the head when you said that 378 megawatts of power. But we still have power failure every single day. So Kweku can come and challenge it and say, well, no, we also added value. We also added some megawatts. But what is the net result on the ground in our energy sector?
The net result is the question that James posed, for example.
And when the president,
can you imagine,
and when the president recently told us
if
that,
we had remained in the state without the addition?
well, it is up to them to tell us why in 20 years or in 55 years of independence, we are still struggling. Whether they have not made the progress we should make and the measure we should have in this country. We should get to a point where the basics, you switch on your light, it comes on. That's the basic. Nobody's interested in whether you added 378 or whether you added less. Everybody wants to switch on their light and it works. Basics. So let's deal with the basics over 20, 30 years. Why are we still struggling with the basics? That's the point. First. Well, why have you failed to add? Why have you failed to deal with the basics? Why are we still struggling about who's adding? And President recently in his policy outlines told us that part of the reasons there's a shortage of meters. The 750 million of the Eurobond, a lot of it was supposed to have gone into buying meters. Part of it given to the president's son at the time. So have we come or have
part
we gone?
of it given to the president's son at the time?
Again, it was reported, part of the, if you read, even in this report,
Which report?
they talked about.
No, it's important.
Yeah, we don't understand.
You refer
Part
to
of the
report.
750 million Eurobond is being cited over and over again that a proportion of it went into a company
Prepaid meters.
for prepaid meters, right? That's what I'm getting at, which I believe one of the president's son owed. Now, years down the line, no, what I'm saying, is it true or not?
Fact.
This is official government sources about how
Is
the money was used. You
is
want
it
to
true?
bypass that
Is it true
and go
or
and...
not? Well, I've already said, I've already given you my answer. I've already given you my information
You will
on
focus
the
because
to
you have
and
just a
fro.
minute. You have just a minute to end, so please don't heckle him.
Look at the bigger
Focus.
picture. Ghana is not working. Ghana is not working for Ghanaians. These two parties have been in government over the last 20 years, and the fundamentals are not in place. That's what we're interested in. Otherwise, we will have a new administration. They will also come and play macroeconomic indicators. And on the ground, we continue to suffer. That's what Ghanaians are interested in. Deal with the basics. Let's see that we can move the country. We know that you can industrialize the present economy in 15 years. In 30 years of these two, why are we not industrialized?
I see. Abdul Malik Kweko Bako.
Yeah, my brother. Let's clear certain things first. This thing, and he's damn right, it was a media publication to the effect that part of the Eurobond was used to purchase meters, and that the contract was given to one of Mr. Kufuor's children. But just to set the record straight, on 5th November 2010, Mr. Kufuor's son, Edward Ajikum Kufuor, issued a statement. It's important that we clear. It's a very short thing.
Yeah.
It was rejoinder to Kufuor's son blows Eurobond money. I have followed with indignation publications in a section of the media which very wrongfully alleged that part of the Eurobond money contracted by the government of Ghana under the NPP administration was used to pay for a contract that I have executed. The story is false and without any foundation whatsoever. It maliciously makes references to my father, who was then president of the country, and gives the impression that the supposed payment was made with his influence. I categorically deny being given directly or indirectly any portion of the Eurobond funds. Mr. Fifi Kwete, Deputy Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, and Mr. Raymond Archer, editor of Enquirer, must prove their claim or retract the story and apologize. Mr. Kwete and Mr. Archer and their cohorts should prove to the whole world when this money was paid, how much it was, for what purpose it was paid, and the name of the company it was paid to. The story is a propaganda spin by Mr. Kwete and Mr. Archer, and they are calculated to cause dissatisfaction for the former president and his family, and impair their image in the public's eye. This is signed Edward Ajikum Kufuor. Now let me deal with one or two of the issues, and we don't have time, so I'm going to restrict myself to the Eurobond and the issue of extension of electricity to 1,700 communities. I'll start with that. The NDC's Forum for Setting the Record Straight, on page 5, they asked this question: how does the NPP think the NDC has been able within 3 years to connect as many as 1,700 communities to the national grid. How does the NPP think that the NDC has accomplished the feat of increasing by 18% households connected to electricity in 3 years, when for 8 long years the NPP could achieve only 11%? How does the NPP think the NDC has within 3 years added 367 megawatts to the nation's energy generation capacity? My brother, you see, truth, we should be truthful when we put out information. The NDC claim about this extension, it's been possible, and I'm assuming for a moment that the extension they are talking about is true. Is it 18% that they are talking about?
That's correct. True? Yes, 18%.
I'm assuming. I mean, I'm not going to contest that. The question is, how was that possible? This propaganda piece is suggesting to us, it's a propaganda piece. They are suggesting to us that the loans, because people are questioning them as to what has happened to the loans, and so they are telling us and the MPP that the loans that they've collected was part of why this has happened. Now, that's a bloody lie, and I'm sorry to use such a harsh description. The extension is mainly based on the 350 million US Exim Bank loan that was contracted in 2008, in fact 2006-07, but approved by Parliament in 2008. Joy FM, look at your own story. You have on your like 350 million regional electrification program, and it was launched by the Deputy Energy Minister, where he spoke of all these things. That loan was $350 million. It was approved by Parliament in August 2008. That is what has facilitated the spread of this 18% they are talking about. It has nothing to do with loans that have been contracted under the NDC3 administration. The question being posed to them was, what have you done with the loans that you have contracted since you came into office? You cannot, in all fairness, answer the question, bring up this electricity distribution extension and link it to the loans you have contracted, because that loan did not come under your administration. Let's be factual, let's be truthful. Now, again, let's deal with the Eurobond. Kweku is referred to the World Bank document, so I will skip it. This is a memorandum to Cabinet on utilization of proceeds from Ghana's Eurobond transaction, presented by Dr. Kwabena Dufour, Minister for Finance and Economic Planning. Okay? When? It's dated August. Let me check, let's be sure first, because we are talking facts here. It's dated 4th August 2009. All right. Signed by Dr. Dufour. I can give it to you too. Now, he talks about planned utilization of sovereign bond proceeds. The planned utilization of the sovereign bond was as follows. Sector, energy, planned allocation, $456.8 million. Roads, $198.6 million. Railways, $89.4 million. Issue cost, $5.2 million. Total, $750 million. Those were the planned allocations. But he says actual utilization of the sovereign bond proceeds. As at August 2009, market. As at August 2009, a total amount of $746.6 million had been disbursed. A summary of the disbursement is as follows, meaning that there was even a surplus by 2009. Then he says, description, energy, $508.28 million. Roads, $92.27 million. Railways, 13, I would cut the plus off. Others, with asterisk, 126.5 million. Bank, 5.220, all totaling 446.60 million. Then he proceeds, and it's important, this is the Minister of Finance's memo to Cabinet. He proceeds to say, disbursement unrelated to energy, roads, and railways. That is where the asterisk was. Itemized below are the disbursements classified as others. Interest on first coupon to Citibank, 14 million. Purchase of 2 something rights issues of Anglo Gold, You know, they have subsequently sold it. It was bought for 55 million.
Yes,
They have sold it,
200.
so we've made profit as a state. VRA crude purchases, 41 million. Transfer to TCMA. You will help me with that thing. It's a treasury something, TCMA account. Is that at the Ministry of the Ministry of Finance, Establishment of International Financial Services. All I'm saying, there are many of them here. They total 126.
And you should be rounding up. Yeah.
They total no, but it's important. They total 2 points. Now, and then it says from a comparison of planned versus actual allocations, the following observations can be made. Energy allocation was overspent. Very little of the railway allocation was used. Then it gives the line up here. So you see, it says the current Eurobond balance is $3.4 million. Colleagues are kindly requested to take note of the above. Now, I then find it difficult to hear my own good friend, Fifi Kwete, Deputy Finance Minister, putting out a question to the effect that people should tell the nation how the Eurobond was spent. It's within their brief.
All right.
They have the document.
Okay.
They have the answers. So what he ought to be doing is to provide this information and perhaps criticize it, that this is poor usage of the resources. But you don't pretend that you have no information to the effect as to how the money was used. That can only be propaganda.
All right. I've got Fifi Kwete, the Deputy Finance Minister, on the phone line. Good morning to you and welcome to the show. Hello, Fifi. Hello, Fifi. All right, we'll try and get him back. Even before Kuku asked his questions, he wanted to make some intervention because he thought that there was some distortion to what they had put out. So we'll try and get him back. Hello, Fifi.
I hear you very well.
Good. All right, so let's go. What's the intervention you intend to make? There are questions that are being put out to you.
Okay, am I clear though? I mean, can you hear me well?
You are very clear.
All right, thank you very much. And good morning to yourself and your panelists and all your listeners. I think I will start with the last end, Kweku Baku's intervention. Now, Kweku, if you are somebody who is always very careful about what you eat, so I'm surprised it will escape you. My question was not about the fact that the money was not used. That's not the point at all. The point was to stress within the context of economic transformation whether that actually was the best that the country could have used the money for. That's why we were very specific and asking, show this country one visible infrastructure, and we define it. We can show this country what you use the money for in terms of road network. Specifically, let's say, for example, Rollins or even going back to the time of Kwame Nkrumah. You borrow money, you can show what it is you are using money for. Akosombo Dam. You can show that you use it for Tema Motorway. You can use it for Tema Harbor. We're talking about $3 billion facility. You can show that you are using it for gas infrastructure. You are using it for the transformation of the Takoradi Harbor. You are using it for Accra Lake irrigation. Money of this magnitude, $750 million.
So, Fifi, sorry.
Within 10 years.
Hello, Fifi.
At an interest rate of 8.5%. It's not money you use for purposes such as prepaid meters. It's not money you use for purposes such as locomotives when there is no railway line in the country.
Fifi, can I ask this question?
Your minister.
This question briefly. I'm asking one infrastructure project.
Yes.
Do I take it that you are not aware that part of that money has gone to the Bui Dam project?
No, you see, you don't seem to understand it. Bui Dam is a project that was on its own and financing was raised for it. When we were going to the international financial market, it is the thing that you cannot come and mention names. The financial advisors that led this country towards the receiving of this money from the financial market had clear ideas exactly what that money was supposed to be used for. The problem that happened was that because they did not secure the designs, they did not get in place the technical drawings and so on for the particular road infrastructure that was supposed to be done. When the money arrives, they realize too late that here is the money, but the road designs and the technical things that needed to be in place were not there. So it happened that they now have to put this money into a normal budgetary stream and now start using it for the typical procurement stuff, like using some of it to pay subscription at West African Gas Pipeline, some of it to be able to pay agency shares, some of it actually when paying salaries, some of it when paying locomotives. What I'm talking about is massive misapplication.
How does
Fifi, and you want to put it in infrastructure that will generate a high return?
Fifi, let me put this question.
Yes.
How does putting the money into areas you consider as non-priority, how does that relate to wastage?
Now, let me explain it to you. Something you see, there are different facilities that every government assesses. There's a non-concessional facility, and there's a concessional facility. Now, concessional facilities by their nature tend to be relatively cheaper. I mean, not just relative, but very, very cheap. We're talking about sometimes 25, 30 years, sometimes in the case of African Development Bank, as much as 40, 45 years of maturity. And the rates are normally 1%, sometimes much, much lower. These are facilities that, because they are not expensive, you could afford to put them in places that the returns are not extremely high. But when you go for a loan that you are supposed to pay in 10 short years, and the interest rate is as high as 8.5, you want to make sure you put in a place that the returns, financial returns and economic returns will be massive, so that you'll be able to pay that money quickly, and then, you relieve the country of the stress. So therefore, priorities become important. You want to put it in places that the economic benefit for the country will be massive. That's why when we were going for the $3 billion facility, we did not, for example, go into projects that we know would not be able to generate the kind of return.
All right.
We went, for example, in a specific area like the gas infrastructure.
Okay.
Knowing that from the feasibilities we've done,
all right,
within a matter of 2-3 years, we would actually be able to generate the $3 billion facility, the complete $3 billion to pay it off.
All right, Fifi,
that's what MPP failed to do. The final thing I'll say something before I go.
Yes.
Something just a final thing. We said this whole thing within the context of economic transformation. To say that, listen, the two governments, the two parties should be able to establish whether they've been able to put the emphasis on economic infrastructure that is capable of transforming the economy. And we said MPP's use of that facility shows clearly that they don't have their priorities.
That's the essence of our discussion. Thank you very much and have a good day.
It's a pleasure.
All right, I'll come back to you. All right, my production tells me that I need to take a break at this point. When we return, I'll do a 2-minute sort of reaction from Kweku, and then we'll move on. I suppose that will be fair.